The Lord be with you. Reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. When the days were completed for their purification according to the law of Moses, the parents of Jesus took him up to Jerusalem to present him to the Lord, just as it is written in the law of the Lord, "Every male that opens the womb shall be consecrated to the Lord, and to offer the sacrifice of a pair of turtle doves or 2 young pigeons, in accordance with the dictate in the law of the Lord." Now there was a man in Jerusalem whose name was Simeon. This man was righteous and devout, awaiting the consolation of Israel, and the Holy Spirit was upon him. It had been revealed to him by the Holy Spirit that he should not see death before he had seen the Christ of the Lord. He came in the Spirit into the temple, and when the parents brought in the child Jesus to perform the custom of the law in regard to him, he took him into his arms and blessed God, saying, "Lord, now you let your servant go in peace. Your word has been fulfilled. My own eyes have seen the salvation which you have prepared in the sight of every people, a light to reveal you to the nations and the glory of your people Israel." The child's father and mother were amazed at what was said about him, and Simeon blessed them and said to Mary his mother, "Behold, this child is destined for the fall and rise of many in Israel, and to be a sign that will be contradicted, and you yourself a sword will pierce, so that the thoughts of many hearts may be revealed." The Gospel of the Lord. This is the way we may know that we are in union with him. Whoever claims to abide in him ought to walk just as he walked. That's from our first letter of St. John, the first reading today. It reminds me of when I moved to Montana right after high school and worked for my uncle. So I worked for him for quite a while, but when I'd come home shortly after that, I took on his accent. Like I started to sound like him. Evidently, I didn't know this, but started to sound like him, have his same kind of mannerisms and stuff. The same thing happened to my buddy in high school, Wuss. He went to North Carolina or something after high school, and he came back with the stupidest accent. Like, I was like, where's that even come from? It's not even Southern. But anyway, it happens. Like, the more you hang around someone, the more you start to act and talk and sound and look like them, right? It's kind of what St. John's getting here. He's like, hey man, if you think you're in union with Jesus, we'll know by the way you sound and act, walk and talk, right? Because if we hang around somebody, if we're disciples of somebody, we start to take on their likeness, right? So I'm reminded that definitely this Christmas season, which is the program I'm kind of putting out there, is like, hey, we are supposed to be Christ incarnate out there. We're supposed to be his flesh and blood out there. And that's spiritually speaking true. Looks different, unique on all of us. But what is the one common thing? I mean, that we take on, what's one common characteristic that we are all called to imitate Jesus? And it's charity, right? I guess that's what St. John is talking about here. He says, man, whoever says he is in the light yet hates his brother is still in the darkness. Whoever loves his brother remains in the light, and there is nothing in him to cause a fall. So one common characteristic of all of us disciples is that we love our brothers and sisters, whoever they are, even if they're our enemies. We're called to forgive. Like, this is Christianity 101. Love your enemies. Pray for those who persecute you. Not an easy chore, but like, hey, if we want to truly be free and truly have our eyes opened to truth, we've got to forgive and move on to the next one, right? That frees us. It also is just a high degree of charity. So I just encourage, like, hey, if there's somebody in your life who you've got a beef with, now's the time to bury that hatchet. However that looks in your life. You don't have to go give them a hug necessarily, but let it go from your heart. Then the light of Christ will fill our eyes. We'll be able to see things how God sees them, and then we'll truly take on more of his characteristics and fully be the men and women he's created us to be.